Well, hello everyone and welcome. Welcome. I'm Jan Jeremias. I'm one of your hosts today. I know both of you, everybody on screen or not on screen, but on Zoom knows me today. But just in case you're listening to the recording later on, just introduce myself. I am an integrative health and wellness coach, author, who works with people and pets to help them overcome health challenges and live healthier lives. I'm really excited, as always, to be joined on stage with my co-host, collaborator, and friend, the amazing, very kind Mary Jane McQueen. Mary Jane, tell everyone about yourself. Let them share in your blessing, my friend.
Thank you, Jan, for that. Yeah, so I'm honored to be here with you all today as well. And so yeah, for those that don't know me, as Jan so poignantly put it, in case you're listening to the recording, I am Mary Jane or MJ, and I have my own creative design studio where I help entrepreneurs to step into their light and share their gifts authentically and really just um, really look forward to helping people to get their voice out into the world and helping them co-create visuals that align with their mission. And because, as I always say, when you connect with your true self, you connect deeply with others. So, yeah. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to this sleepy morning for us. I know, Al, it's evening, but welcome for the sleepy heads here this morning.
Yes, I think we're all feeling a little bit like it's been a busy week kind of thing. 9 p.m. and where Al lives. So for him, it's like, the tail end of the day. So, but welcome, welcome. And Mary Jane, did you want to begin with our poem?
Sure, I will definitely do that. Um, yeah. So here we go. It says, don't fall into the trap of thinking that doing nothing is doing nothing for you, that being unproductive is unproductive for you. We've gotten so used to being busy, so used to doing things with visible results, so used to tracking our steps and logging our activity and ticking things off our to-do list that we've forgotten the importance of rest. Doing nothing and being unproductive are actually doing something productive. They're helping you recharge, recoup. Reading a magazine or having a bath or sitting in the garden with a cup of coffee are not a waste of time. Time spent rested is not wasted. We are not machines. We're not robots. We are not here to constantly work and move and do. We are human beings, and sometimes we just need to be. And that's written by Becky Helmsley.
I love that. Especially since our conversation with Darlene when we first got on was basically just about that, you know, was that idea of taking time to rest. So, welcome everyone to today's Anchored in Awareness session. We are so glad you've joined us today. And as we begin, we'd like to share a few insights on the power of stillness and awareness. In our fast paced world, it's easy to forget the profound impact that simply pausing and being present can have. Stillness isn't just the absence of noise, it's a doorway to clarity, focus, and inner peace. Studies have shown that moments of stillness and mindfulness can reduce stress, improve mental clarity, and even enhance our emotional resilience. When we intentionally create space for stillness, we allow ourselves to reconnect with the present moment and cultivate a deeper awareness of our surroundings and our inner world. Hermann Hesse once said, "Within you, there is a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time." This powerful quote reminds us that no matter the external chaos, we always have access to an inner sanctuary of peace and calm. It's within us, always available, waiting for us to tap into. Today, we'll explore how to access that stillness, how to use it to ground ourselves, and how it can serve as a foundation for living with greater intention and presence. So, as we begin, we invite you to take a moment to settle in, breathe in deeply, and open yourself to the transformative power of stillness. Let's dive into that stillness together. So, Mary Jane, anything to share?
It's just really important. I just feel that t today's topic was actually very good timing or divine timing maybe. Um, where we were all talking before we got on recording is about how much we really needed some time to just be still. Just feeling that need. Right now, I think for me, I feel like maybe it's more like hibernation. Although it's sunny here today, it's still very cold and we still have tons of snow here. So I am, yeah, hibernation maybe is part of the stillness for me right now. But I guess it's just really important to think about when we're hitting into the idea of stillness is just really to start with something small, even if it's just for a few minutes a day, and allowing ourselves to just gradually build on that habit and building that into our routine. Sometimes we get so busy in our busyness that we forget that we really need to embrace that stillness because that's when we recharge, as the poem was saying, where we recoup, that there's a productivity in being supposedly unproductive or still. So I love this idea of stillness, especially right now. I feel like I'm in need of it.
I really love it too, Mary Jane. And it reminds me of I was having a conversation yesterday with someone about, Zara, welcome, Zara. Good morning to you, or good afternoon, I think it is for her. And Rosemary, we didn't officially welcome you, so welcome. Um, this idea of like how much the body rejuvenates and replenishes when we sleep. But I think we don't have to be, asleep to reap the benefits of this whole idea of stillness and sort of slowing down, absorbing and being aware of our environment, noticing where we are. A practice that I've done a few times, which I really like to do. So, first of all, I do want to clarify stillness does not necessarily mean quiet. It can mean quiet, but you can be still in very chaotic places. And at points, I can think of situations where I've practiced stillness or being present in circumstances which were quite chaotic, from hospital emergency rooms to, you know, being at an event when you're, surrounded by people that you find, a little overwhelming. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, I've got to be still, or I've got to just be present and kind of center myself so that I can navigate this time with as much grace and ease as possible. But one of my practices right now, especially since I think it's kind of fun, is it's also still very snowy and quiet here in some ways. We had quite a bit of snow and then it's been so cold and then ice. So it's like coated and glistening, um, and shimmering, but it hasn't melted at all because we've had such cold temperatures. Is like I have a great view right now and I look outside and I notice all the different shades of white I can see. And I've done that in the middle of summer or spring, where I notice all the different shades of green that might be around me. And it's just a way to kind of almost like I don't know, I think of somehow a lens of a camera and that just kind of opening it up really wide so you get a really sort of panoramic view, and then yet you can still narrow it in. So there's just this feeling of trying to discern and sort of be one with all those different shades of green or white right now, from, like the slush or the part that's near the road that's kind of like not really pretty at all, to the snow that's on the trees that's kind of draping like like some sort of clothing or silk or something as it adheres to the trees. So that's just the variations, which is absolutely so beautiful and really takes you into that moment of being very present. And when you get like that, when you direct your mind or your focus like that, all of a sudden the chaos of life tends to dissipate. You become a little bit more centered and grounded and more aware. Mary Jane?
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true, what you're saying, and I really like that. I like Rosemary was commenting that she really loved the visual. I do too. It's just the nuances of I guess focusing and being aware. I guess it's really about that, and it's kind of like, how when we were preparing for today, we were chatting about an article that we're reading that was about silent stillness and the art of being. And it was really talking about just embracing that stillness and being aware that it's a very powerful tool when we can really just connect to those things, being self-aware and mindful, and in fact be filled with nuances of gratitude as we take in, as Jan was sharing, the beautiful tones of the snow or the green of the grass, whatever it happens to be. There's just an overall sense of well-being that can come from that, and I just really loved in the article how they were talking about, it's almost like meditation, which Jan knows that practice very well. So I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think the gift of it is that it's available all the time. It's something that we can do no matter where we are. We can sit in a space and um look at the shading of the space we're in, or really take in where we are. And we have that ability to, direct our focus. And it could be, you could do it. And I think the senses are a great way to do that, whether that be sight, sound, touch. We have that ability to kind of rein in ourselves, so that we can direct our focus, because the thinking mind, which is obviously very necessary and we all need it and it's great, but at times what's going on in our heads can be, I'm not going to even say slightly overwhelming. I think it's not even slightly. I think it is overwhelming at times. Not necessarily all the time, but it can be, depending on what's happening in our lives and also what's happening out there in the world, which tends to play on every sort of, I want to say, fear that we have. And so it's a great way to calm yourself down and to focus and to get to that place of presence and gratitude. I don't know if anybody else wants to join us up here or in the in the speaking area, but we'd love to hear from you. But about your practices, and do you find? I mean, I can do it through my senses, and pretty instantaneously now. I can get there in a few moments, not necessarily staying there, but at least for periods of time, and for what I want to say, and I say moments because I think that that's the practice is to be able to do that, and call upon it when you need it, let alone, practicing it every day anyway. But just there are moments when things happen and you need to tap into that really quickly. Mary Jane?
Yeah, I was just thinking about like tapping into that stillness and this being self-aware. I mean, for me, when I feel like I have a bunch of things that I could be overwhelming, taking that time for stillness really for me often it helps like with creativity in the sense that it gives my mind time to sort of rest in a way and maybe explore some new ideas, things that when I'm in my busyness that I may not take the time to do, but sometimes when I'm just at rest, that's when the creative thoughts will come. It's like I relax and they come. So it's just for me, it's just I know it's a very important thing. Sometimes I need to remind myself. Sometimes I actually need to schedule that stillness into my schedule just to allow myself the grace of being able to rest for a minute or two or just take a moment to breathe, take in something beautiful, whatever that may be.
I love that idea of scheduling. And I've spoken for the last few weeks about this app that I've kind of become somewhat addicted to, not in a bad way, but just kind of in, it's not at all, but I'm really enjoying it. Let's just say, let's take it out of the negative, called Mind Jogger. And it's random reminders. So, yes, you could program a reminder on your phone, like schedule it at a certain time. This is random reminders throughout your day, and you can program it to however many times you want it to remind you of whatever it is. But it could be something as simple as like take a moment to be present or take a moment to find stillness. And it kind of alarms you. I have it programmed, I think, right now for 7 times during the day between specific hours, and it'll just go off. I have no idea when it's going to go off. And just to sit there in that moment or at the moments I can, it's like, oh, okay, take a moment, just take in where you are, take a few deep breaths, close your eyes if you feel like you want to, or you can, if you're in that kind of situation. And then it's just a moment, but it just reminds me throughout my day to go to that place. And it doesn't take away from doesn't require that much time. So it's not something that's, going to demand, oh my gosh, I have to now sit for 10 minutes. No, it's a few moments of awareness. And then I'm just like, oh, okay. And then I go back to whatever I'm doing. Um, and you can have it remind you whatever you want to remind. Like I said, I mean, one of my reminders is you as much as anyone else deserves love and kindness. And that shows up like 7 times throughout my day. And the other one is basically what am I saying to myself? What is that self-talk saying? And so it's just a reminder to kind of check in because so much of that time that self-talk goes on. I don't even know that we realize it's going on. And then all of a sudden, when it goes off, I'll be like, oh my gosh, like, why am I saying that to myself? And one of the things that I noticed over the past few weeks with this practice is I had a situation over the weekend, a family thing, that kind of upset me. And I was, and I could have gone down. I mean, part of me did go down a little bit of a path, like kind of like of, old scenarios or whatever, and, rehashing the situation and what it was. But then all of a sudden I thought to myself, that's an old story. Like that's an old story, and I let it go. I mean, that's not now. Happened, probably, when I was a child. That's an old story. And with the fact that I was aware of it and that I sort of caught myself and directed myself out, I was like, well done, Jan. Bravo. Maybe I am learning, like every now and then I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is working, you know. So yeah, so I love this idea. And I really think it is this idea of being present throughout and practicing these moments of stillness over the past let's say 3 weeks. And It's not, I mean, yes, I have meditated for many years or whatever, but that's a scheduled time. And yes, it makes a difference. Don't get me wrong. But I find that now, maybe because I reached a point, like sort of like a plateau. And so now I really feel like this has kind of helped me get over the hump of like, as I incorporate it more into my everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely, Jan. It's sort of it's really cool. You said it was called Mind Jogger, right?
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find it online quickly and then I'll put a link or something. And if not, I can put a screenshot of like the icon
One.
in
Cool.
the comment section after the event.
Yeah, that's awesome. That'd be great. Yeah, I it's interesting, right? Because I instead of like leading with my head, I've been leaning more to, whatever my heart is longing for at a specific time. So for me, the last couple days when I've sort of felt like I needed a little bit of stillness, I really just I put on some sort of like a meditative type music, very quiet, soft, and I found that very soothing for me. And then I was able to recoup and and start again. But just taking the intentional pauses, I think that's really what it's about. And um, yeah, yeah, I just love that. As we were doing the research for the topic and stuff, it was like you know so many valuable moments where it was talking about, finding a favorite spot and just to where you associate that with peace and tranquility, whatever it is, and a reminder that you can practice it whenever it's needed. As Jen was saying, being you can be in a busy place sometimes and you just think, okay, no, I need to be here and now, just in myself, and you can do that at any time. So, Darlene, you had something to share?
Yeah, I always, in listening, I think the fact that we're not on screen as well too, um, is so beautiful because it really, for me, it allows me an opportunity to be present with what's being said and um, not getting taken away with how to, how am I looking, how am I appearing on the screen, is my, behind me, is it blurry still, all those things. So it gives me time to really take in all the conversation. And oh my goodness, I always have so much to say and I'll try and get it all in succinctly. But this, what a gift to give ourselves, right? In those moments of stillness. And our world is such a striving world, right? I think, Jen, you mentioned there's always an outcome. We always have to, there's always got to be something that we can tangibly take from the moment. And to be able to offer ourselves that non-striving, I'm in this moment, I'm here for me because this is what I need. And I love that, Jan, that it doesn't have to be a 10-minute practice. It doesn't have to be a half an hour practice. It can just be a breath or two. It could be walking out, walking away from your computer screen and just taking a quick breath outside. That non-striving, and in that non-striving and in that stillness, we allow ourselves to just open up and flourish and not be bombarded by all of the outward stuff that is flying at us so rapidly, so quickly. And I have a lovely 90-pound lab that thinks he's a lap dog, but that needs a walk every day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And he will remind you that it's time for a walk. And often, when we're walking, I will go behind, there's like a little ravine, and go behind that little ravine, and I take my headphones out. I usually listen to music, but I take my headphones out and I just listen to the sounds. And in that stillness, right? I love that point too, that even though I'm walking and even though I'm physically, my physicality, my motion of my body is doing something, it's the stillness in my mind that is able to just release, let go, be. And I find that usually most of my great brainstorming ideas, or most of my ideas, end up coming through when I'm, finished in that pathway, because I've allowed myself to step away from everything and just be in my body, acknowledging how I feel while I'm walking, accepting whatever comes up, accepting whatever feelings come up. And yeah, I was the one that suggested a day in bed. To work from bed, to do things that I need to do, but that self care. And I think that we, in our world right now, that culture of, oh, self care has got to be so elaborate, or um, just costly, or time costing, whether it's costing our time or our energy, or our, the right gear, the right equipment. And really, I love the quote too, because it is right here. It's within us. That stillness, that beautiful, beautiful acceptance, that trust and that gratitude is always within us. And how lovely a gift is that?
I absolutely love that, Darlene. And a few things that you shared so resonated. So a while back, I decided that when I walked Tonka, I was not going to have my phone on. Like, I have my phone with me, but I don't, like, it's in my pocket and I don't take it out. And so it just allows me a little space. I'm online so much of my day. Usually my phone is right there. And so it's just this opportunity for me to, like you said, take in the sounds around me, take in what I see, to be present. And so that was one thing that I so resonate with, because I feel like that is um key. We are connected. And then the other thing was, the program I'm doing is with Eric Zimmer, and from the One You Feed. And he was talking about it, and I thought about this for a long time based on one of the things you said in our sort of productivity um, society, where we need to be productive, that we don't even take a moment to celebrate where we are. It's like we do something and then we're like, okay, well, I wrote the first draft of my book, but now I have to work on the cover, and I have to work on, reviewing it and writing the second version, and I have to make sure I do this. And it's like it's ongoing, and we do that all the time. It's like we don't even pause to breathe, to say, oh my gosh, like, look at what I did. Like, what an accomplishment. And then to move on. But we're so quick to move to the next thing. Okay, I did this on my to-do list, or to-do list, which I now call it. And then, okay, what's next? What's next? And we're constantly moving to what's next, where we haven't really taken a deep breath and kind of like said, oh, look at, this is what I did, or this is where I am now, and kind of honor that whole process. And so we're so quick all the time to go to the next thing, where we're never really in the thing that we are in. I think that made sense. um, Zara, did you want to share something?
Yeah, hi Jan. Hi Mary. Hi everyone. Yeah, I kind of wanted to go along with the same theme of sort of silence and being still. There was a book that someone recommended to me called Silence is Key at the beginning of lockdown by Ryan Holiday. I don't know if anyone's heard of that book. Now, I started reading it and I thought it's the first time I'd even thought about trying to be silent. I was always so busy rushing around. I had so much to do. And yeah, I was rather stressed actually before lockdown. If I think about it, that was my quiet time. And what I discovered was I started waking up really early in the morning then. I think I was just trying to have some time to me. And I wrote poems about, well, why am I waking up so early for this me time? Now, this was a time when we couldn't just leave the house whenever we wanted to. We couldn't go for walks. If you remember that time, I think in UK we were allowed to have something like 15 minutes walk. That was it, like in, out. Okay. And that was the family together. So it's not like you're going to have that time on your own. So I ended up waking up at 5 o'clock. They like to call it the 5 o'clock club. And I started just being there, just sitting there with my thoughts, going like, why am I waking up? And I started writing as I was trying to understand why I was doing this. And I was writing poems and things. And this went on for about 2 months. And I think I ended up having a new routine over lockdown where I would wake up at 5 in the morning and I would just sit there on the sofa on my own and while everyone was sleeping. So that was my me time. And I would just think about like what was on my mind, what was bothering me, how I was feeling. And then I would just write something, whatever that came to my mind. I think they call it alpha waves. When we wake up first thing in the morning, I believe we're in alpha waves. And I'm told that's the time where we are most effective to plan the day. Well, I wasn't planning my day. I was trying to understand like what I'm going through right now. But later on, I met someone else who then said, "Okay, why don't you plan your day that time before writing, and go, okay, what is it you think you need to do? How do you feel about this person? What happened the night before? What happened during lunchtime? What did you eat? That you're feeling this rubbish." So I started getting deeper and deeper into analyzing. Was it the food I ate? Was it someone I conversed with? Was it spending too much time or not enough time with somebody, like my family, like my friends, or not spending enough time with myself? So, yes, silence. Silence was key in the end to get to the bottom of what's been bothering me, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I expressed myself. So that's one way that works for me. Walking around in nature, I think for me is more like a getaway, if I'm honest. It's almost like another distraction. And yes, it's great to take it all in and just go, okay, just have a change of mindset to where you are now. But it's almost like that problem's still waiting for us when we get back, like going on holiday, right? And you have to come back and do the washing. So I prefer to tackle it now head on and just sit there and get comfortable with that feeling and address it, yeah, as opposed to run away from it. And then I turn it into some kind of creative writing that I believe will help others. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
Thank you so much, Zara. And I think you bring up a really great point, but I think there's room for both. There are times where we, whatever we're going through, and I don't like to, problem, but it could be, whatever we're processing is too much and we need a little space. And then there's times when we're ready to kind of handle it head on. And I think for me, it's being aware now of what I'm doing. So it's a choice, and I'm a very aware of that choice. And I use this example quite often. When my dad passed away, which the anniversary of his passing is this coming week, the 27th of February, 2 years. When it first happened, and I was helping my mom, and my mom lives in Florida, and I was bringing her up like to be with us, and that's where the funeral was, and then I had to take her back down, and I was going back and forth to Florida and up north for probably he passed away in February, transitioned in February, probably into June or whatever. And I process like I cried, but I didn't really process the whole thing. It was kind of like, I don't really have time for this right now. I really have to take care of my mom. And I had moments of where I would like go for a walk and kind of, but I knew I was doing it. I knew I wasn't going to run away from it. I knew it was going to happen. It was very consciously that I did it. Had a lot of awareness. And then I came home after I'd taken mom back the last time, and she was in her house and I was in mine. And then all of a sudden one morning I got up and I said, okay, now I'm ready. And with awareness, that's when I started to like really like sit with the fact that he was no longer here, that he was watching over me somewhere from heaven, I believe. You know, I took a picture out and I had it, in a special place in my home so I could see him every day. And I cried and cried and cried, but it was with that awareness. And so I think that that's really, to me, what stillness brings. It's like, oh, okay, I'm making a conscious choice here, and I'm aware of that choice. And That's really, and so I think there's room for both. I think at points, and I get what you're saying about holiday, because I remember the first time after a very traumatic event, I went to I went to Anguilla, beautiful island. It was stunning. It was in the middle of winter. It was fantastic, and I came back and my mother said to me, "How was it?" And I said, "It was great, except I went." It was like all my problems had gone with me. And so it wasn't really a vacation because I was there. And so I think that, I've been in places and I can understand what you're saying about sometimes it is a distraction, but sometimes we need those distractions because whatever we're going through, and let me tell you, I processed it and still do that situation. But it will, with a lot more awareness do I do things like that. Mary Jane, you came off mute for a second.
Yeah, I was just and sorry, you made me laugh. Was I yeah, well, I think that's what it is, right? It's being aware. So making choices that speak to our heart in that given moment. Whatever our heart is needing, whatever we need in order to move forward, whether that's taking a moment to take a breath, just because we're feeling overwhelmed with the work that and the busyness of our busyness, as I would like to say. Um, they, just being aware of that and doing the thing that feels right at the time. And yes, of course, there is a time and place where we do need. Sometimes I need to take a breath before take something on full on confronting whatever it is that's happening. It also gives me a moment to listen a little bit more to my heart and not just react with my mind, because my mind might react in one way and my heart speaks a different language. So I often will take a breath before I will, unless of course I need to address something head on right away. I just take that moment to pause. It's really, that's what it is. It's about being aware of what we need to continue to move forward, at any given time. And um, yeah, that's just my take on it. So yeah, so I could see both points of view for sure, um, that we do need to address it. But so I think it's just listening to the heart. So listening to the heart, that's the main thing for me.
That's absolutely true. So beautifully said, Mary Jane. Absolutely, such beautiful wisdom because I could not agree more. I think that, I used to go to a healer, my acupuncturist, who was wonderful, and she would ask me something that I was going through, and then she used to look at me and say to me, Jan, no, 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 that's your mind talking. That's not your heart talking. And then I would say something else, and she'd say, not yet. Like you're not there. And it's because I was in my thinking head, which I was, I'm very analytical. So I tend to, comes from that 24 years of being in a lab, like everything is a process and a table and you're supposed to decipher everything and everything. But, you know, I had to get in touch with the center of my chest. Darlene.
Yeah, that just it makes me think of the concept of just really grounding back into our bodies.
Hmm.
Right? And there's such a disconnect sometimes for a lot of people where we don't know how we feel. We're just so disconnected from that. So in uh, in hearing in hearing what everybody's talking about, it just came like this flood of back into your body, back into your body, back into your body, feeling back into your body in whatever way works. And that's, I think, again, I spoke before about a gift. What a great gift, because it is adaptable and pliable. And there is not one way of doing it that's right or wrong, because it really is with that awareness of what we need and coming back into the body. That's what brings us back and grounds us into, who and what we are and what we need. And I love that.
And I love what you just said, Darlene, because that has always been my experience. And I think that that's why I gravitated to yoga, because when I got into yoga was during this really traumatic thing that had happened in my life, illness and my divorce and everything in life was um, really hard and challenging. And I couldn't necessarily express it, but I could feel it. And it was a way for me to quiet because there was really not much music, stillness, and be with myself and be with my body. And even if I couldn't articulate it, I could feel it, and I could feel it in my body. And it helped me to process quite a lot of it so that I was then able to share it, talk about it, express it. But before then, I couldn't do that. It was so painful. I was in such a, I mean, I had a nervous breakdown. I'm not shy about that. So I was in such emotional chaos that I was not able to share it really. And so it was really this feeling of like, I can feel this and I can process it. And that's why, when I work with people, I'm very much about like whatever you're going through, where do you feel it? Where is it in your body? How does it feel? Because I think that sometimes we don't have the words. Words fail us. Words are great, don't get me. I mean, Mary Jane and I are both word nerds, but they do have their limitations and they don't necessarily all the time capture exactly what we're going through. Mary Jane, I know, drew a card and she wanted to share the card.
Yeah, it was of course as always. I'll just share quickly before we hear from Zara. But of course, I pulled it for this group here. I just felt called to grow it, and it's from the Raise Your Vibration Oracle deck. And it was so speaks to what we were talking about. The different ways of of stillness or not, whichever the case may be. But it's the card I pulled is called "Let Your Inner Fire warm you, not burn you." It says your inner fire is the passion you hold within. It's the part of you that wants to make a difference. It's the part of you that has get up and go. It's the part of you that wants to keep going when everything else is telling you to stop. This flame of inspiration in the core of your being is bright, inspired, and focused. It lights up when you tune into your passions. You tend to that flame when you listen to your intuition and express your most authentic self. Like all fires, however, if you put too much fuel on it, your inner fire can become too hot and uncontrollable. It's important to keep it contained and centered. Today, the universe is acknowledging your gifts and passions, but encouraging you to slow down. Take your time and rest. Let yourself be filled up until you are overflowing rather than operating on half empty. You'll enjoy it more, and so will the world. And the vibe of the day is I take the time to replenish my energy. Now, if that card doesn't speak to our topic today, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Mary Jane. I can't even you'll have to take a photo of that and please pop it in
I'll
the,
pop it in the comments for the event. Yes.
yeah, yeah, please, please. I love when Mary Jane and I draw cards quite often. And if you're on with us, if you have a session with us or whatever, you always, in the end, we'll draw a card. And it's always unbelievable. I draw cards with a lot of my clients. And so yesterday I had that experience and she was like, oh my gosh, the words I had just spoken were on the card. It was like, how did you do that when you shuffle the deck? But it happens all the time. Divine energy, divine timing. And welcome, Divine. And she's in the space. The so Zara, please.
Yeah, thank you. That was beautiful what you shared, Mary, and I do resonate with that. There's one thing from a personal experience that I kind of wanted to talk about the whole heart-centered thing and going, is that my heart talking or is that my mind? I think my past dictated that I was going to be there for people for certain reasons, and I'm not going to go into that. So I was giving too much to the point that I was running out. And it's just all to do with a family dynamic, to be honest. So that whole thing, Jan, you're talking about your father, and I'm so sorry you went through that. Imagine experiencing that for 30 years from your mother and your brother, okay, and just a whole bunch of mess going on in the background. So I was just like, okay, this person needs my help right now. I need to go and sort this out. And I was so used to doing this. So my heart's always pulling me towards, I guess, enabling this, whoever's struggling at the time within my family to the point I ran out. Now, apparently, there's a memory in our heart and there's a heart in our brain. So I understand. And so once we're used to doing something, there's a pattern. And the brain goes, okay, yeah, this is fine to do. And I didn't realize that my body was warning me that people were crossing my boundary or I was allowing it to happen. So once I started doing these types of breathing techniques that someone showed me about 2 years ago, I realized I've got the side of my stomach on the right hand side. I get like a alarm bell that goes off if I feel like my boundaries being crossed. And if I ignore it, it can get to the point where I'll end up in hospital, like throwing up, like symptoms of having some kind of appendix, kind of like that kind of. Whereas now, as soon as that alarm bell goes off now, I'm like, okay, done too much of something somewhere, my boundaries crossed now. So I think it's good to have that awareness, like you say. But when we go on about that's my heart and that's my mind, sometimes we have a predisposition from before, and those can confuse us. So that's when the Buddha can really come to our aid and tuning into it and recognizing those patterns. If we diarize and go, okay, I felt it then, what was going on, who was around, that's what really got helped me get to the bottom of like what this damn thing is and like when does it go off. So yeah, I think it's a holistic approach, isn't it? When we want to look about stillness and what is it we're tuning into? And is our heart really telling us this thing? Or are we just conditioned to think we have to do that for whatever reason? I grew up in a cycle of abuse. And so sometimes I can confuse with love and hurt. And I am aware of that. So it's just going back to basics and going, okay, no, this is not going to serve me or others. So let's be quiet now. And there are times when I do go quiet on the platform, and I've actually put that in my about section. So thank you guys for allowing me to share this too.
Thank you, Zara. Um, yeah, I think that is, you know, kind of an interesting thing is like, what is my heart telling me? And that idea of trusting ourselves, trusting what we feel and knowing that if we feel it, like we talk about, and I think part of it was for me, compartmentalizing that whole idea of, compartmentalizing my feelings, like, I think it was Rosemary who shared over the weekend about, certain things that she realized when she did the heart mapping were in a box. Well, I had definite, like there were walls, like fortresses around the emotions that I didn't want to deal with, and constantly putting them aside. It was kind of like, okay, well, I'm quote unquote not supposed to feel like that, whatever the emotion was. And I think that you don't want to, you don't want them overflowing, but you also want to allow yourself that space, which is, I think, what we're speaking to here is to allow that stillness so that you have the time to process. I mean, to me, this whole idea of like we're going to compartmentalize ourselves, like Mary Jane spoke to in the poem of like being a robot. Well, we're not robots. We're human beings in all entirety, like that whole thing, that mess, and not a bad mess, but, a mess. We have emotions, we have physical things that go on, we have emotions that are held in the body. And that's why I think I loved yoga, because it gave me the ability to process and to feel what was in my heart, to know it was there. And I use this story because I remember the first time I realized that emotions are actually held physically. During that time when I was going through my divorce and illness and everything, and I was in that sort of nervous breakdown state, I had a place in my upper back right in the center, which felt like it was locked. Like literally, it felt like the vertebra got stuck and I couldn't get it to open. And I would go to class and I would speak to my teacher, and who I had like one dominant teacher that I went to a lot and did my teacher training with. And she used to say to me, Jan, it's going to open organically. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, what the freak is organically? Like organically, schematically. I just wanted to leave. And I would spend like you would watch me throughout the day and I would be constantly shifting and kind of moving because it felt like it was so locked and I wanted it to open. And I went to chiropractors and massage therapists. Like no, it was there for like a year. And I go away the following year and I'm on a beach in Mexico on a yoga retreat. And I remember sitting there walking on the beach. And finally, it was early morning. To your point, Zara, I love mornings. I'm very much a morning person. The quiet, the stillness. And I got up in the morning and I'm walking on the beach. And I remember thinking to myself, excuse my French, everybody, I just have to let this shit go. Like, I just, and I went to class like not 5 seconds later. I mean, it was like minutes later. And I laid on a yoga block and my back cracked like 13 times. I think I turned white as a ghost. I sat up. The woman next to me said, "What just happened?" And I said, "You don't understand. Like, this has been locked for like a year." And it was just this conscious choice that I was done. Like, I was done being in this place. It was time to move on. I had processed everything I could process about the situation, and I'm still processing, but at that point, and that was the point where I really realized how much we hold those emotions and they get stuck in our body, and we don't even realize it. And when I opened up there, all of a sudden I was able to articulate it. So yesterday I'm talking to my client who I'm with, who does a lot of like Reiki, private yoga. And we were talking about the fact of that when we've practiced yoga through the years, that all of a sudden you'll start to cry and you have no idea why you're crying. Like there are tears coming down your face and you're like, I have no idea why I'm crying right now. But it is that release physically of the emotions that are kind of stuck in there. And it's that time that we allow ourselves in that stillness and that quiet that allows us to be able to, then, share it with whoever we feel like, you know, is almost like has earned in your heart the place to be able to share that with, let's say. I want to put it that way. And there are people out there. And so, yeah, so it was just such a powerful, powerful experience. Zara, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I resonate with that suddenly crying and not knowing why. The story behind my brand goes back to when I was 4 years old. And I can share it with you guys later. So this is not about that. But the day I wrote it, that was one of the early mornings I woke up. It just came to me. And I'd sat through this thing called Mind Valley, and there was what was her name? Vanessa Piers, I think her name is. Anyways, I was going through that, and she got me to go down these steps and go into some jungle, and then this story just came to me. So this must have been a trap story going back to when I was 4. I had broken memories of it, but the whole thing wasn't complete. And I started writing. And after I wrote it, I just cried the whole day. And my husband came down and like I just shut myself in this room. And I was just like, why is this such a painful event for me? And I just couldn't get my head around why it was so painful at the time. But yeah, I guess a lot of our life revolved around that one day and that whole misunderstanding that happened between the parents, the nannies, the whole culture thing. How we put certain people down is very close to my heart. This whole racism topic. So it was connecting very deeply with my values, which they were paying somebody to basically quash the entire family values. And I thought, why was I trusted to this person? And that's why it was really hurting. So I'd love to share that story with you guys later. But yeah, sometimes it's even something going back to way before we can logically remember. And maybe there is the only way to let it out is like you say, something like yoga, Jan.
I mean, people do it in different ways. I have always found that yoga is a really powerful way for me to help process those emotions through. I think some of the, Tai Chi, some of the other martial arts, I think is a beautiful, beautiful Qigong. Um, and then some of the other modalities just like that are very much about that whole body experience and being able to, sort of like move in that fluid, very flowing kind of way so that you can experience and truly feel what you're going, like the movement. I'm sure some people might do it through dance. I think that there's a lot of different ways. Mary Jane, you unmuted yourself for a moment. Did you want to share something, my friend?
Actually, no, that was an accident, but but it's
Okay.
but I can't. Something came to me. It's like for me, yeah, you say movement, and for me, like I think I was sharing earlier, was that is that for me, sometimes music. I can listen to music, and if I'm really in tune with what's happening with the music and the emotion behind the music itself, it too will bring tears to my eyes. But in that stillness, it's a release because I realize that I'm still holding on to something that wants to come out. So yeah, I love that we all have our ways of doing things, whether it's a meditation or dance or movement or taking in nature or just breathing, taking a moment to ourselves, reminding ourselves that we are important too, and as the saying goes, that we are human beings and not human doings. Sometimes we forget.
Absolutely. Divine?
Thank you, loves. Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, great, great. I just wanted to make sure I was audible. Thank you for this event. Thank you so much. Every Friday, I absolutely love it, even though this one is a little bit earlier. But I made it. I made it, right? Especially after last night. I swear everybody in here is talking about what I experienced last night. Each and every one of you has spoken on it. And I'm like, okay, this happens all the time, right? Alignment, synchronicity. And I find myself every single day regulating and being still and connecting to my emotions. And what I've also learned is that our nervous system is very much primal, right? It's very much primal. So, just think about like children or babies or animals, their nervous system is very much primal as well. We are connected. And when I think about the things that I used to do that I was told that's weird, or even I told myself that's weird. Why are you doing that? But I was regulating my nervous system. I would shake, right? Shake my head, make weird sounds. I'm into ASMR, you know, um, I would do things with my body. My body would do things and I'm like, what are you doing? But my body knows, right? The body knows how to release, how to let things go. But what happens is that we start to analyze all the whys and all these things that may happen in the mind, or the ego wants to question everything. And I'm just like, you know what? Last night I said, I'm not questioning a goddamn thing. I'm just going to let this go and regulate and do what I got to do. Because the evening times are a little bit more rough for me with my health condition right now. And I got a little overwhelmed last night with my children, and I just got overwhelmed. I'm like, you know what? Cannot. I had to separate myself. Sometimes we have to separate ourselves, remove our own self out of an environment, out of a situation, whatever it may be, so we can connect and regulate ourselves. And sometimes you may have to, understand those emotions after you regulate, after you release and regulate, because if it's meant for you to understand what's going on, whether you have to put up a healthy boundary or you have to say no more or whatever, you got to do less. I told myself that I become a minimalist. I am now a minimalist. And so that means that I'm going to have to kick my OCD habits away. Everything has to be in order and clean. I'm going to have to say, let somebody else do it their way, or it can wait. So there's certain things, the behaviors and changes, things that have to change within me that can be challenging daily, right? But I'm aware of it and I'm able to take it step by step and I'm able to regulate my nervous system and do the weird things that we have been taught that are weird that can help you regulate your nervous system, whether that is through sound. I'm into a lot of sound therapy, sound healing, intuitive. The nervous system is also intuitive. You just know what to do. Your body knows what to do to regulate. So I guess that's what I wanted to share. And like I said, last night was rough for me, but I got through it and it's a new day. Happy Friday. Happy Venus Day, my loves. Thank you for allowing me to share. I landed there.
Thank you, Divine. And first of all, I have to say that I love shaking. So I'm there with you. Um, and as you said, animals shake. If you watch like a dog get up, he'll like do a whole body shake that's recalibrating their energy. Um, I have a longtime student and two longtime students that are maternity nurses that say after delivery, women shake to recalibrate their energy, to kind of readjust and reacclimate. So I think that it is it's like a response that we have to adjust and to recalibrate our own energy. And um, it really does. I always take a lot of my examples from animals because I think they have a wisdom which is pure. And so I think that that's a really beautiful way to kind of, and if people think you're strange, they think you're strange. That's my opinion anyway. There's always room to find, to find a space, like to go in and be as strange as you want. I've been in situations where you go into a public restroom and you just, you go into the stall and you shake just because you need to, and then you just do it. So release, regulate, and recalibrate. Thank you, Mary Jane. So
It seemed to be the theme for sure.
yeah, yeah. And it is to allow yourself in that stillness or whatever stillness means to you in the moment, is to find those moments in your day. Feel free to use Mind Jogger and just remind yourself throughout the day to get up and take a moment to be still and breathe, take in your environment, notice what you see, what you feel. Mary Jane, before we go into meditation, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I was actually just gonna share. It's like, wow, it's like I'm really looking forward to the stillness that I know the meditation is going to bring. And then you said before we head into meditation, so it's like, okay, so we're on the same path wave pattern apparently. So, anyways, I'm just looking forward to that moment of stillness, taking that moment for myself.
Okay, great. So, welcome everyone. And as we begin, we invite you to find a comfortable position. Feel free to sit, lie down. If you're standing, gently close your eyes if that is comfortable, and if you're in a space or a time where that's, you know, safe. Let your hands rest comfortably in your lap or by your sides. And take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, allow yourself to begin to relax a little bit. And bring your awareness to the present moment, to the moment that you are in right now. Feel the weight of your body against the ground or your seat. Notice any tension in your body. If you're holding anywhere, if you want to do a little shake to kind of release that tension, feel free. And see if you can allow that tension to leave with each exhale. Begin to deepen your breath, inhaling through your nose, feeling your chest and belly rise. Hold for a moment, and then exhale slowly through your mouth, letting go of any stress or distractions. With each breath, allow yourself to become more present and in this moment, more grounded in the stillness. And as you continue breathing deeply and slowly bringing your attention to this moment, take a moment to invite in this idea for you of whatever peace and stillness means. What even do those words mean to you? Now, if your eyes are closed, let them open and glance around your space, wherever you are. And notice, what 5 things do you see? What are their colors, their shapes, their textures? Close your eyes and shift your focus to what you can hear. Notice if you can hear 5 things. You hear my voice, maybe sounds of others in your home or space, sounds outside. You may hear the sound of yourself breathing, the heat in your home. Now bring your focus to what you feel. Your feet on the floor, your body touching the surface you're sitting on, your back on your chair or on your bed, your hands resting on your legs or on your chest, on your heart. What does it feel like to be still? What thoughts enter your mind? What feelings? Can you be aware of them and allow them at the same time? As you settle into this stillness, remember the words of Hermann Hesse. Within you, there is a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time. Allow these words to resonate within you. Know that this sanctuary, this stillness, is always available to you, no matter where you are or what is happening around you. As you breathe in, just keep these words in your mind. I am grounded in the stillness of this moment. In stillness, I find clarity and peace. I trust the quiet within me to guide me. Stillness is my sanctuary, and I return to it whenever I need. With each breath, I become more centered. The peace within me is always available, always present. Take a few moments to simply be. Let go of any need to do or achieve. Just be present with the stillness that is within you, allowing yourself to feel at peace. Anchor in this feeling of stillness. With each breath, become more deeply rooted in the awareness, more anchored in the quiet beauty of this moment. There are no ordinary moments. When you're ready, feel free to open your eyes, feeling refreshed and centered. Take a moment to notice how you feel and carry this sense of peace with you throughout your day. Please connect with Mary Jane and I and everyone else here today. If you are not in our Facebook groups, feel free to join, both on LinkedIn and Facebook. Our recordings here are now placed on our YouTube channel. So if you want to revisit or share those recordings with anybody, we'd love for you to pass them along. And so that is also available. Also, we have our member highlights there, our beautiful, beautiful community that we're kind of trying to share what they do. And those are also, the recordings are also on the YouTube channel for Spirit Born Imaginings. Our next workshop, Mary Jane and I, is March 22nd. So that's super exciting. And we're really, really excited to bring some self-care through mind, body, and spirit, creativity, and other healing modalities to you. Wishing you a great week, no matter where you are. Take a little space and a little moment of stillness, a pause to recoup and recharge. And Mary Jane, anything you'd like to close us out with, my friend?
I just love to wish all of you a blessed rest of your day. I know for some it's evening, so the rest of your day, and as you head into the weekend, may be filled with everything that helps you to refill your cup. So thank
Have a
you
great,
for joining us.
have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Al.